So now I want to go on to the problem that I told you I think is probably the most under-recognized and undertreated voiding dysfunction in women. And it has to do, I've given you a clue, it has to do with the flow of your urine. I have women that come in that tell me that their urine just drips out, that the woman in the stall next to them sounds like a racehorse and theirs just kind of trickles and they don't know why. This is very, very common. So we're going to talk about it. So if you have slow flow, difficulty starting urination, feeling like you don't empty your bladder completely, if you have to strain to get started, or it takes it a few minutes to get started, or it starts and stops, or like I said, if the woman next to you sounds like a racehorse and you don't, then you might have one of these problems. So let's talk about the anatomy here. We have three structures that we're talking about. We've got the bladder that stores the urine, we have the bladder neck, and we have the sphincter. I think of the bladder neck and the sphincter as a double-layered door. They're both contracted. As all of us are sitting here right now, our sphincters are contracted, our bladder neck is closed, and our bladder is relaxed. That is in the resting state. The only part of urination that we control is the sphincter, and it's a relaxation. So when we want to go to urinate, we relax the sphincter. So we relax the sphincter. That tells the bladder neck to dilate into a funnel shape. Then the bladder contracts and urine flows through a funnel. So that's normal urination. If your flow is slow, if you feel like you can't empty, if it's trickling, any of those type things, there's only three possible explanations of what could be happening. One is that the bladder is not squeezing. The bladder is a muscle, it wears out just like everything else, and people have weak bladders. Two, the door's not opening, which means these muscles are in spasm, and that's called pelvic floor dysfunction. Or three, something's in the way. Now men, the few men that we have in here, we always blame the prostate in you guys, but the rest of us in here don't have a prostate. So the only way we would obstruct our urethra is if our bladder's falling out to the point where we have a scrotum, okay? People, if your bladder's falling down a little bit but it's not bothering you, you're not kinking your urethra. So if you have slow flow, it's one of the other two things. And the problem that I mentioned that I said is the most under-recognized and undertreated is pelvic floor dysfunction, which is the door not opening. And think about it this way, these are muscles and they're contracted all day long. So if you have a couple of muscles and they're contracted all day long, the only time they get to relax is the times you go into the bathroom. They can go into spasm. Then you go into the bathroom and you tell them to relax and they don't, or they partially open. Then your bladder is trying to squeeze against a straw, and that will cause difficulty getting started, slow flow, etc. And also, pelvic floor dysfunction causes and worsens overactive bladder, because now your bladder is working really hard to get through a door that's not opening, and it behaves just like a prostate in men. So if a man comes in, he's getting up at night, he's going frequently, he's going urgently, I know it's the prostate. It's the prostate in them. We don't think of that in women, but it could be pelvic floor dysfunction.